Hey everyone, my name is Sean Cecil from the Oculus Institute, and today we're going to talk about the inner toddler. So in my last video, we were talking about the inner bully, the voice that says, hey, listen, you're not good enough and all this other kind of stuff. The other voice that I've seen that really stops people from getting stuff done is the inner toddler. And the inner toddler is the voice that says, I don't want to do it, right? And this is ultimately what some people may call laziness. I know that, there was a video in my Entrepreneurs Who Aren't Going to Make It series where that was the fundamental issue for one group, right? But it's something that shows up in other ways as well, right? And this is when people are looking at, a certain amount of work, right? And, they look at it and they look at it, that's too big, I don't want to do it, right? And then they'll come up with, rather than just saying that out loud, it tends to come out in other ways, right? So it's not, because people know that if they just say that out loud, that's not congruent with, what they've said that they want. It's not congruent with their goals. And, Cialdini's principle of consistency, people don't like to be inconsistent. So rather than have that direct cognitive dissonance, it tends to come out in other forms. One form that it comes out in is ADHD, right? Where they're just constantly shifting tasks, because if they're constantly shifting tasks, they seem busy, right? Which means that they're too busy to do the thing that they really need to do. Right? And so they'll do a whole bunch of other stuff that they don't need to do. It doesn't really accomplish much. And then that big thing that they really need to do doesn't get done. But they're busy. And then, they're constantly doing this thing and that thing. And then somebody's like, oh, I can't focus because I have ADHD, right? And I'm not saying that there aren't people with legitimate neurochemical imbalances. There are. And there are also a lot of people who are just using that because they haven't confronted the fact that they are not congruent and consistent with putting in the work to achieve the goal. They want the goal without the work. Another way that it shows up is in overanalysis. Oh, well, I've got to make sure that all this is perfect before I go ahead and put the work in. I've got to make sure that it's guaranteed to succeed, or I've got to make sure that I have everything just right before I put the work in, right? It's just another excuse to not put the work in, right? And at the end of the day, right, there are two ways to get around the inner toddler, right? Depending on the nature of it, right? So in one case, the inner toddler manifests because people, they chunk up way too much, and they look at a project and they don't break it down into specifics. And so it looks really, 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 really intimidating. And rather than proceed, they freak out, right? That's like the gentler version. And that's the more easy to overcome version. Because then what you could do is you can look at the project, you can break it down into as small steps as possible, and you can commit to putting in 5 minutes. And then after you put in 5 minutes, you can commit to another 5 minutes or whatever, right? Normally, if you commit to putting in 5 minutes, you'd be surprised you end up continuing for, normally an hour or 90 minutes or even just 30 minutes or whatever. But normally, if you commit to putting in 5 minutes, you end up putting in more than 5 minutes. But if you just chunk down the project piece by piece, that deals with the gentler version of the inner toddler. The more extreme version of the inner toddler is the one who's just like, hey, I just don't want to work, right? I want to work as little as possible. I don't want to do anything that's really difficult, right? And that approach is, again, that requires some deep internal work around what's the purpose of life, right? I remember I was at an event, some guy was talking about how he wanted to be a social media influencer, and then somebody's like, okay, well, so why do you want to do this? He's like, I feel like it's an easy way. So no, the question was, what are you going to be, discussing? What's going to be your niche? Who's going to be your audience? All this kind of stuff. And he's like, oh, I don't want to have niche. I just want people to just follow me and record me living life and shit, and then get paid for that, right? Because I feel like it's the easy way to make money and get girls without really having to work, right? And me and the guy who's running the event had to have a come to Jesus talk with this individual about how that's not the way the world works. But unfortunately, it's something that you're starting to see, and you're seeing it. You're seeing it certainly in younger generations, but I've also seen it in older people as well, and people who are in their 40s, 50s, et cetera, who are basically saying, hey, listen, I just don't want to put effort in. And you've seen it a lot more since COVID. Because what happened with COVID is people got themselves in a position where they didn't work for a period of time, and they had stimulus checks or unemployment or whatever coming in. So they didn't put in that effort. And then, then now they have to go back to putting in effort, and they've gotten used to not working. And so they don't want to work anymore, right? Now we have labor shortage, right? And ultimately, like in that situation, you really got to do some thinking about like, why are we here? Because if we're here to just be as comfortable as possible, I would argue that that is not a very fulfilling life. I would argue that I have never met anybody who approaches life from that perspective who is genuinely happy. Not one. Whereas if I look at the people who say, hey, listen, I'm here to solve interesting challenges and do good for the world and have fun doing it, those people are happy, almost without exception, right? So I'd really question one's model of the world on that one, because I believe it's the latter. I believe that we're here to serve other human beings, to do it in a way that interests us, and to have fun solving challenges and growing and expanding, right? And if if you're sitting there and you're dealing with the inner toddler, be really honest with yourself about it, because there's no way to get past it unless you're honest. But then I'd really dive in and say, hey, listen, is this really what leads to a good life?
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If there's something that resonated with you, maybe a new connection that you made or some information that shifted your perspective, if you found value here, then I want to give you one last gift. So I've put together a free diagnostic that I call a checkup with the career doctor. Short list of questions, and as you answer them, it's going to give you a readout of where you stand on the important metrics of career fulfillment, right? How happy are you with your job and how good a fit is it, right? Financial success, which we all know, and then internal alignment, which is your level of inner peace and the inner resources that you have to bring to creating the life that you want. Additionally, it's also going to show you which areas you can improve on to get those metrics moving in the right direction, as well as how can we at the Oculus Institute help you make progress. So it's totally free, 100%. All you have to do is just go to www.oculusinstitute.com/purpose quiz, right? No spaces, no dashes, just oculusinstitute.com. That's OCULUSINSTITUTE.com/purpose quiz. And you can take it totally for free. You'll get a free report sent to you. And then at the end, it will give you some next steps of what you can do to reach out so that we can help you create the career of your